Hola, hola. Welcome everybody to Season 3 of the Chicago Techies Podcast, a podcast focused on highlighting the voices of Chicago Techies and their experiences. This season, we'll be hearing from seasoned entrepreneurs to rising stars making their mark. We'll dive into their triumphs, their challenges, and all their unique experiences that have shaped their journeys. I'm Ceci Fischer-Benitez. Thanks for joining us. Before we dive into this episode, I just wanted to note that this is our season finale, and I look forward to coming back strong in 2025 with a brand new season of founders. I'm really excited to get to talk to founders in Chicago and see what they're building, what they're working on, how we can elevate the city even more, learn about their startups, learn about the solutions that they're building. And obviously for all of you to get to know some of these local founders here in Chicago. To give you a taste, this next guest of this season is also a founder, and she's building something really amazing here in the city. So I'm excited for you to get to know her. I'm excited for what's coming in 2025, and I hope you join us along for that ride. As for now, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting this podcast. I am very grateful for all of you, and I hope that you have a great rest of this year and a very happy holiday season, and we'll see you next year. Hey, Sarah, thanks for joining me on this week's episode of the Chicago Techies Podcast. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Of course. No, I'm so excited for people to get to know you because I only just met you this summer, and it's crazy enough. I normally don't do this actually. But after we met, we literally went and hung out till like midnight.
That was a late night. That was a Thursday night.
That was something that I haven't done in a very long time, and it was really exciting. But I want people to definitely get to know you and what you're working on. So what normally when I start these conversations with my friends and folks, I start asking for your name, your pronouns, where you're from, and your current role. So let's get started.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So my name is Sarah Blythe. My pronouns are she, her. I am originally from upstate New York in Rochester area, came out to the Chicagoland area about 20 years ago now. So technically I'm from the Midwest, but, I'm an East Coast girly living in the Midwest. So my current role is I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Mercurial AI. And what we do is we generate hyper-specific, truly personalized treatment options for breast cancer patients. And our goal there is to improve the survivorship and survivorhood of women and men diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. It's definitely a very impact-driven mission over there. So
very mission-driven. Yeah.
Yeah. But before we dive into that, I'm curious, do you go back often to the East Coast or not really?
Sometimes, all my extended family is still out there. So I make that 12-hour drive about once a year to go visit everybody for the holidays.
Okay. So, but do you fly at all or no?
No, typically we drive out there. It's just so much easier. Yeah. My grandma lives out kind of in the boonies in the Finger Lakes area. So even if we were to fly in, it's still about an hour drive to go see her. You got to rent a car. It's just much easier if you pack everybody into the giant van and drive out there.
That's true. It is actually fun. Kind of an adventure road trip adventure, right? So.
Oh, yeah. At least 12 hours isn't too bad. We did a 22-hour drive to Yellowstone, and I'm pretty sure we all wanted to kill each other by the end of it.
Yeah. When I was growing up, well, technically I was already a teenager in my teenage years. From when I was maybe 15 till about 20, my family would drive to Mexico every year. And that was almost 30-hour drive.
Oof. Did you split it up in 2 days or 3 days, or how did you do that?
Usually 2 days.
Oh, man.
You can't really get there in one day. But my brothers like the challenge. Sometimes they would really go fast. But yeah, I definitely understand that. And after I turned 21, after I got a job, after I basically went independent on my life, I was like, never again. And I have not driven to Mexico since I was 21, basically. Now I just fly. But so I feel you. All right. So I wanna hear about your journey, like how everything kind of got started, because you have a really interesting background. You were a registered nurse, right? That was your first career, essentially. So I want to hear about your path into tech, and then kind of what brought you to the tech space, and then obviously eventually starting your company and becoming an entrepreneur. So can you walk us through that story?
Absolutely. So I went to school to be a registered nurse, got my bachelor's degree from Loyola University here in the city, and have stuck around in the city ever since. So my first career as a nurse was in the operating room. And that is where I have, primarily stayed for my 6 years as a nurse. And during that time there, I was introduced to robotic surgery, so Intuitive's Da Vinci robot. And I was just absolutely fascinated by it. I'm a child of engineers. My dad, my brother, my granddad, everybody engineer. So seeing robotic surgery and seeing the adoption and the integration of that was just absolutely fascinating to me. So I quickly became the head of robotic surgery at one hospital, was a nurse through COVID, was a nurse before, during, and after COVID. And then eventually moved from the small community hospital where I started to a level 1 trauma here in the city, where again, I quickly took on a whole bunch of roles and was in charge of robotic surgery, gynecology, urology, and oncology. So I had a lot, like over 100 surgeons reporting to me, calling me, texting, emailing me about all their problems, and I had to be the one to fix it. So I loved it. I loved that space. I loved what I did. It just got to a point where we had so much turnover in the hospital that we had new grad nurses teaching new grad nurses. And I remember one year I still kept my my badge reel of like everybody's cell phone numbers on it. And I would just cross off names on there as people would leave. And I still have it. And it is like mostly blacked out from the amount of people that have left. 30 people in this department of 50 people left in 1 year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was insane. So we had such high turnover. We had such problems. You try so hard to train all these people and really kind of make a difference, educate them. But it just got to a point where I was just so burnt out, so fed up. And then, tried to move into management, and they said, hey, we want you to have an MBA. And I'm like, to be a mid-level manager, you want me to have an MBA? I'm like, all right, screw this. Put in my 2 weeks. And then that same night, I got a call from my co-founder, Dennis, who I had worked with him previously at another startup here in the city. And he said, hey, Sarah, I've got this crazy idea. Like, do you want to do this? And I was like, all right, screw it. Like, let's go. Jumped head first. That was about a year ago, almost to the day where I started this full time, and kind of landed in the world of tech and in creating artificial intelligence for oncology.
Wow. So what was the previous startup that you worked with Dennis? How did you get involved with that too?
Yeah, so I was actually introduced by my fiance to the founder of that company, and he was looking to bring on interns. And that company was doing computer vision in ICUs and across the hospital to provide predictive alerts for safety events. So during my college experience, I worked night shift in the hospitals as a nurse's aide and worked across all the floors at North Shore up in Evanston, which is now Endeavor. Mm-hmm. And saw a lot of things, treated a lot of patients, and night shift was a trip.
So I kind of love this about you, that you obviously have been involved with tech within like the tech and healthcare space. So I'm curious, this is a question that I always wanted to ask, like that, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about tech and healthcare that you have encountered over the years in your service?
Yeah, I mean, I think I meet a lot of founders who think that physicians want technology, that they are just as big, that they are just as big of a techie as they are. And some of them, sure, but that's a small minority. What they really want is the same as any other person who works a full-time job, right? They want their problems solved. They want their daily annoyances fixed. And if tech can fix that for them, they're happy to adopt it.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel like your expertise, obviously, you bring a big amount of knowledge to the health tech space. Just curious if anything else other than that has ever kind of perked your interest?
Like other integrations of technology into healthcare?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with healthcare, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the back office things are being automated away by artificial intelligence, and there's companies tackling that. There's people tackling billing and claims, and there's people, everybody hears about Bridge and their AI note taker for clinician notes during your primary appointments. So that's a huge thing. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of going and visiting your doctor and seeing them and they're sitting there on their computer typing away and you're like, hey doc, like, do you even see me? Like, do you even look at me in the eyes, like when you're talking to me? So I think the integration of some technologies such as that and such as my solution could really make a difference to the patient experience and really kind of bring us closer. I mean, the advent of electronic health records versus on paper was a big shift. I did do a short stint at a hospital here in the city, and they were still using paper charting, and they were just transitioning into electronic health records.
Wow.
In 2021.
Yeah, I loved when we were able to, when patients of any kind were able to log into my chart or any kind of chart, so that you could actually, because I am one of those nerds that likes to know everything about my life and what they're testing and, like my plans. So I appreciate that. But I do love that you still kind of like related it to health tech.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's kind of where I live.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. I guess in that vein, like what are some of the skills that you have transferred over, right? That you felt like have been beneficial now as your new role as a CEO of a company, a startup, and just kind of navigating tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would assume that nurse to CEO, there isn't a lot of overlap there, but I think specifically in the operating room, it's kind of a black box for a lot of people. Patients are asleep, nobody sees it. Unless you work in that area, you don't see what we do in the operating room. And I believe that, I think there's like 5 different portions of it that cross over super well. First of which being prioritization. There's a million things that you have to do as a circulating nurse during the surgery, but you have to decide which one is the most urgent that I need to tackle now that will make the biggest difference. You change that over into, startups, and there's a million people telling you that there's hundreds of things that you need to give 100% of your focus to all the time. And it's just not true. You need to prioritize what is the most important thing for me to be doing in this instance that will make the biggest amount of change. So prioritization being number 1. Number 2 being teamwork. In surgery, you can't do it alone. I've got circulating nurse, scrub tech, anesthesiologist, surgeon, patient, and then you throw in residents, students, PAs, everybody. It's a huge team. There's, 4 to 9 people in the room sometimes. And if one person has something delaying them or something's going on with anesthesia, it affects all of us because it affects the patient. If the trays aren't right from sterile processing, that affects us in the surgery. Same thing in a company, right? It's a teamwork, especially when you're a small company. If somebody isn't pulling their weight, if somebody isn't, doing what they need to do, it affects everything. So that's the second big crossover that I feel. Third being situational awareness. Surgery, if you talk to any of like the med students, they're like, I know I won't touch anything blue because it's sterile. I know. That's one thing. But the other thing is, as a nurse, you have to know what's happening on the surgical field, as well as whatever activity you're currently doing, be it charting, being it running supplies, whatever it is. You have to know what's going on around you to be able to be good at your job. Same thing happens in startups. You have to know what's happening inside of your own company. You have to know what's happening in the broader markets. You have to know what's happening in the investment markets and where everything is shifting. You got to know where your competitors are. It's situational awareness, but on a broader scale. Next one being anticipation. I can't tell you how many times I've been watching a laparoscopic surgery on the camera and seen an area, and I'm like, that's going to be a problem in like 5 minutes. She's going to get to that part, and we're going to need something that I currently don't have. She's going to run into an issue here. So on my downtime, I'll go grab whatever supplies I know that they're going to need before they even know to ask for it. Same thing goes in your company, right? You know that there are going to be potholes. You know that there are going to be downfalls. You have to anticipate those and build a plan for those. Have a plan B, plan C, plan D. Call it a pivot, call it whatever. You have to anticipate those problems and have a plan to address them when they come up. And then the last one is you got to know your shit. Like, You have to know what's happening in these surgeries. You have to know what everybody's doing at all times. Same thing in startups. You have to be a subject matter expert. You have to know what's going on in your industry. You have to know where these trends are going. I mean, I come from the healthcare background, obviously. So it wouldn't make any sense for me to build a financial tool in a financial startup. I have no business doing that. I don't know that. Yeah. But health tech is something that I know deeply. So, of course, that's going to be the area in which I'm going to spend my focus. And I didn't know a lot about AI going into this company, but I can tell you, I have learned so much since then that it honestly is quite surprising how much I know at this point. So yeah, I mean, you just really have to know your shit. And then the funny answer to this question that people always ask is like, oh, what's the crossover? And I'm like, oh, the hours are roughly the same. Instead of 3 a.m. getting called in for a gunshot wound or something, it's 3 a.m. on my couch on my laptop doing some work. But I chose to do that, Yeah. So there is a lot that crosses over that I think isn't very obvious, but I think that good nurses can make really good CEOs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you touched on, you didn't say this, but I mean, leadership. This is you're already acknowledging, and particularly what you said is that you acknowledge that you have no business doing a financial model when you don't really know how to do it, and you get help for that. You get someone else to do that, and acknowledging that when you don't know something is the biggest thing as well when you're leading a company. But I mean, that's just another thing that you're definitely that. Sorry, just as a funny note, as everything you said when you were talking about the operating room and all those, everything that you need, I'm like, I feel like I'm on an episode of Grey's Anatomy, and I can love it.
Grey's Anatomy is so not realistic. If you want realistic, Nurse Jackie, I think, in my opinion, is like the closest thing to real. Scrubs was pretty good.
Really?
But Nurse Jackie.
Okay, maybe I should check it out.
It was good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I know that there's nothing realistic about Grey's Anatomy, really.
Nothing.
But it is one of my favorite shows, and yes, I've been watching it for like 20-something seasons, and it's kind of embarrassing, but
what season are they on now? I feel like I gave
20-something.
Oh my god,
it has to be 20-something. I forget, but it is.
Man,
yeah, it's.
I hung on for a while, and kept watching, and then eventually I'm like, oh, Meredith Grey, you gotta retire. Come on.
I still do. I know. Technically, she kind of did, because for the last two seasons, she's been only part-time. So she's only there a few episodes in a season, but yeah, I'm still into it. I'm just a nerd like that. But okay, so let's get back talking about Mercurial AI. I want to hear a little bit about some exciting projects that you might be currently working on, or anything that you want to share.
Yeah, of course. So we did beta testing with a couple of users, identified some problems as you do. And we've got a giant user interface overhaul happening right now as we speak. So I have been in and out of Figma, commenting, learning, changing, and getting all of that fixed up for our big launch. And then we're also working on a paper. So we will have a new publication out soon. We're submitting it to a couple of conferences and a couple of publications.
Yeah.
Magazines and everything. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be dropping soon. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. I imagine that some of those projects can take a lot of time, obviously, and it can get busy. But I was going to ask you about being a female founder and all that, but actually I'm not going to do that, because I hate it when only women get some questions about, as a female founder, can you say this? No, you're just a founder. So I want to hear about some of the challenges that you might be facing in general, whether it's your business, personally, professionally, whatever, like any challenges that you're currently tackling.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest thing that we're facing is that, and I think any founder can probably attest to this, is that I feel like things aren't moving as fast as we need them to. And I wish that they would move faster. You know what I mean? Like, I want to sprint at 100%, but when you're waiting on some things, you have to be like, all right, let's take a step back. What can I be doing in the meantime when I'm not pitching to people and, doing all these things? So yeah, that's definitely the biggest challenge is, you have months of sprints and then you encounter a new month and you're like, okay, well, now I have to wait for everybody else's deliverables.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
I'm a little bit curious about your product. Who is your target market? Is it hospitals or people?
So it's both, unfortunately,
Okay.
as a dual-sided product. So I know. So we do have a consumer-focused application called Care Pilot, which is what we're doing the giant user interface overhaul on.
Got it.
So it is for women and men. We're aiming for specifically women diagnosed with breast cancer. But really anybody with any chronic care, anybody who just wants to learn more about their conditions or talk to an expert large language model or virtual assistant about their medications, their lab results, what is this medication that is happening? Why am I feeling this random pain in my chest? Like, what's the cause of that? So that is really our target market, is the consumer side.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, we are selling essentially enterprise software to hospital systems and piloting and testing our solution with oncologists and oncology departments.
How long have you been building this for?
About a year now. So technically, I think 7 months. It took me about like 2 months to really get my feet under me in this role and figure out what needs to be done, what needs to be fixed up, how to get things running.
So what keeps you motivated, during this time that is a little bit challenging and as you build?
Yeah. I mean, I think we are so mission driven. This company is built out of, a personal story of wanting to help people and make a change and save lives. So when you really take a step back and look at the big picture of the impact that our technology can have on people, on anybody, that's really what keeps me going. Because sometimes I feel like Sisyphus pushing that boulder up the rock, pushing that rock up the hill, and it just never seems to end. But I mean, I think that there is a rainbow at the end of this.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is definitely, I mean, I can imagine this also being emotionally draining just because of the impact. What you're working on is important, and it might take it definitely takes strong character to do something like this and to continue moving forward when it's going to impact a lot of people. My dad had stomach cancer back in like the early 2000s and 10s. There was like not really anything that, I mean, I was kind of young still at the time, so I didn't really know how to help or how to even talk to him about it. Our family didn't even talk about it because it was also just something that you don't really talk about. I'm glad that that's changing, and I'm glad that people are able to kind of not be a little bit more educated about their chronic conditions and whatnot. But yeah, this is a quite a hefty mission that you guys got.
It is. It's deep. It hits hard, when you're standing in a circle of founders and everyone's talking about what they're doing. And you're like, hi, yeah, I'm trying to solve breast cancer. They're like, oof. And I'm like, yeah, that is kind of an oof. But yeah, I mean, it affects 1 in 8 women, and we're currently seeing a rise in millennial women, young women, no family history, getting diagnosed with breast cancer. So, I mean, I just think it can help so many people. And so when you take a step back from those draining days and from those long sprints, being so mission driven and making a difference. I mean, that's why I became a nurse. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And at the time I was like, well, one person is somebody's entire world, So if I can make a change and make an impact for one person, technically kind of, I'm impacting and changing the world.
Absolutely.
And then, you work in the system and, you do so much that you can. But then you say, you know what? I think I can do more. Which is a really big feeling to have of, let me try to actually make a bigger impact.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely the right person for this job. This is incredible. And given your expertise and, in as a nurse and just everything in general, like the way that you think, I think this is definitely a hefty mission, but also really exciting that, that you have the right team working on this.
It is a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, most of us are, at least some of the founders that I'm talking to in my role and stuff, they're all trying to build something else, or they're all trying to tackle different issues. But I think it's really, it adds another layer when it's impactful for the entire world. And when so many people are no longer here because of this disease. But yeah, the problems that you're trying to solve are great. I'm just curious now about, like, do you have any like partnerships with, just community partnerships with like Susan B. Comer or any organization that kind of focuses around just like cancer support groups, all of that? I mean, I feel like that might be a good start too, to kind of start talking to those communities about using your products, and getting educated.
Yeah. I just had a coffee with the team from Gilda's Club yesterday, and then went to a fundraiser for Twist Out Cancer, which is a nonprofit organization, both of which are doing amazing work for people with breast cancer, cancer in general.
Yeah.
The Twist Out Chicago event was awesome. They did a fashion runway show. All of the designers were survivors of cancer, and all of the models were survivors of breast cancer as well. So it was truly incredible and awe-inspiring. Just to be in the same room as these amazing women and these amazing people, and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's great. Well, I want to hear a little bit about just like any piece of advice that you've received over the years from either other founders, other people in your life that kind of has give you some significant impact about your career.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of broader career, I think the biggest piece of advice that, I don't know if anybody told me this, but it's something that I have kind of determined, which is the minute you feel comfortable in your role is the minute when you have to leave, you have to change.
Mm-hmm.
You just get too bogged down with the monotony of it. And, when you feel like you go to work and you are just on autopilot is the time when, you stop learning, you stop experiencing new things. And I think it can be a point at which you have to say, oh, I have to make a change.
Yeah. That's powerful. I feel like it's hard for me to take sometimes that kind of advice, because sometimes I don't even know it when it's, when comfort, because you are comfortable. So you don't really think about that often. But I think I'm now at a point in my life where I have definitely understood that. And now I have definitely made moves.
Mm-hmm.
How can people support you? Like, how can people help you or help the organization right now? What's a call to action that maybe we can have some listeners help with?
Yeah. I mean, I would love for you guys all to go onto your Apple App Store or your Google Play Store, download Care Pilot. You'll be able to search it, Care Pilot by Mercurial AI. It is available online. Download it, check it out, give us feedback. Don't kill us in the ratings as we make these giant UI changes, and help us make an impact. Share our tech with your loved ones and give them the opportunity to better themselves and hopefully have better outcomes.
Yeah. And for Care Pilot right now, is it solely just for breast cancer folks, or anyone that
Anybody can download it and use it? There is a portion of it that we are calling AI-powered health insights, in which we basically extract important data, HIPAA compliant, of course, data from your uploaded medical records and cross-reference it with national published guidelines, peer-reviewed studies and journals, and open enrolling clinical trials that match to you, to give you topics and potential treatments for you to speak with your doctor about that might be an option for you in your breast cancer journey. So that is really the only thing that is breast cancer specific in the application as of now. Otherwise, take use of our AI transcription for your doctor's appointments. Set it to record. You will have all the information there. Interact with the OncoChat, which is our virtual assistant. They can help you with right diets, answers to your questions about medications, side effects, vaccine schedules, anything that you can think of medically related that you would like answers to, with links to where we actually pulled this information, so it's not hallucinating and lying to you. And check it out.
I feel like that's a lot of the AI concerns right now, right? Like who is being delusional and who's not from their from their chatbots and all, but that's great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, keep a lookout for our new publication. That's what that whole thing is all about. We compared our solution versus GPT-4.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that we are much better at it than GPT-4 is. But
yeah, I mean, I can imagine. You guys are professionals, right? All right. Well, how can people connect with you? And if they want to reach out, like, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. You can typically find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Blythe on there. You can also follow us on Instagram, carepilot_ on Instagram to check us out and see what we're up to. You can also view clips from my podcast, Survivor Stories, The Untold Truth on Cancer, as I discuss with women who have survived breast cancer and hear about their experience.
That's great. And is that already live?
Yeah, episode 1 dropped October 1st.
Awesome. Congrats. Well, we'll also link it on the notes for people to check it out and also your information. So thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. I really appreciate chatting with you and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Chicago Techies Podcast. If you enjoy listening, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review on iTunes. Let's continue the conversation on social media. We are at Chicago Techies on all social media platforms. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.